Welcome on into the Wolverine.com podcast. Clayton Safey here with Chris Ballas as we hold it down while Anthony Broom is on his honeymoon, Germany, England, all these places. Must be nice, but we had a great 4th of July weekend here. Happy late 4th to everybody out there. Please like the video if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And head to the Wolverine.com right now. Use the promo code UM1 for 2 months of premium access for just $1. We're going to get into your mailbag questions on Michigan football and basketball and get out of here. We do have a question on Torch Lake and Chris's excursions over the weekend, so we'll get to that at the end, but I assume you had a great 4th, right?
Amazing. Yep. You used a little more sunscreen than I did, as we are discussing. So 3 days in that sun, man, it was baking. It's unbelievable how beautiful it was. And then Sunday you come home and it was 69 degrees and rain up there, and it took 4 hours to make a 2-hour drive because everybody's getting out of there. But it was well worth it. God, if you haven't been to Torch Lake or if you haven't been to Northern Michigan up there, you're missing out. But man, what a don't go. Exactly. Go somewhere else. So we don't need any more people up there. It was gorgeous. So lots of fun, man. And now it's back to business. Been booking all these trips for all these road trips we got to be taking this fall. Lots of flights. Clay, it's quite the budget, but thanks to Dr. Bajwa and some people like that, we're making it work. And I hadn't even thought about Maryland yet either. So, but it's crazy. Lots of road trips this year, and gonna be a fun season. We're only 54 days away, Clay? 53.
I was about to say 54 days away until the New Mexico game. I believe 16 days until we fly to Las Vegas for Big Ten Media Days. Big Ten country, right? No Big Ten team in Nevada, but let's have it out there. It makes a ton of sense. But yeah, it is what it is. At least Maryland's a somewhat easy flight from Detroit. Right. You got a couple options there, but it is a packed road schedule this year. So it's exciting. There it is right there. Every 2 weeks, it's like you got a road trip, essentially. Yeah. Oklahoma, Nebraska, USC, Michigan State, easy road trip, Northwestern, somewhat of a neutral site game. And then Maryland, where you last had your 1,000th win there and had a lot of Michigan fans. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun year, and you can kind of feel it's nearing it. The summer goes pretty quickly once you hit the 4th of July, from my experience, and especially once you get to Big Ten Media Days, which is kind of the unofficial kickoff of the season. But it's going to come quick. Now, did you have a chance to watch any Team USA U19 FIBA or New Zealand?
Only the highlights, and I'm writing a column about this today about Morez Johnson and how he is the missing piece. It's unbelievable. Everybody talks about Yaxel Lundeborg, Clay, and I agree. I mean, he's like the difference maker, right? He's going to be that guy. He's going to be a first-round pick. Morez Johnson is just as big a difference maker, in my opinion. Brings not just the toughness, but the rebounding. He's going to score better than people think. I guarantee you that. He has such a high basketball IQ. Defensively, absolute stud. So he's going to be one of those pieces that if Michigan does get to a Final Four, he's going to be a huge reason why, every bit the addition that Yaxel Lundeborg was. So watching him play was outstanding. I think Oscar Goodman is going to be really good too eventually. Had a little ankle turnover there, but it's, there's so much depth. And the one thing that I heard from people close to the program was like, okay, the good news is we got seniors. These guys are going to be leaving. So these underclassmen are content, right? They're making their money and they're doing okay. And they are content to be that next class to keep this thing going, which doesn't happen very often. Now they're saying that now. We'll see if it happens and comes to fruition, but I believe it will because the culture is so strong. These guys love Dusty May. And the one thing that Dusty said was, Yaxel Lundeborg told people Yaxel Lundeborg recruited us as hard as we recruited him. So I love the culture, love Dusty May. Dusty May is going to just absolutely kill it here. He's going to be a beast in the Big Ten for as long as he's around.
I posted this on our message board before over at the Wolverine.com, I think on the 4th of July. I happen to have the exact whereabouts of another high major head basketball coach in the country. I won't mention the conference, but it's pretty nearby. The conference is, and what that individual was doing was completely different than Dusty May out in Switzerland, recruiting, supporting his guys, all this stuff. I mean, that dude is 24/7 basketball, and said on the Huge Show a week or two ago that he's not going to have any downtime really until August. He said a few weeks ago on an interview that he had, I think, only one Friday, Saturday in Ann Arbor at home with his wife since the end of the season. And that was just, 5-6 weeks ago, something like that. And it's been full head of they've had live periods, recruiting, and all that since then. So it's not like he's had a ton of time at home. The work ethic is incredible, and the coaching staff is 5 really driven assistant coaches as well. And the results have spoken for themselves so far. They have a lot of humps to get over, but you got to feel just incredibly good about the direction of the program. I mean, you couldn't feel any better about the direction
He's
of
a
the program.
jackhammer. He is a jackhammer. He's Jim Harbaugh on this side, minus some of the quirks, right? But he is a jackhammer. He doesn't observe any holidays. He doesn't get sick. I mean, this guy, I remember thinking when he was up there with a sore throat and he's smiling and laughing, and it was just like Jim Harbaugh. Like, there are no excuses here. I'm at Michigan. I need to do a great job, and he's doing an unbelievable job. He's better than I even expected. I knew he was going to be good. Again, having friends who worked with him when he was at Eastern Michigan and told me this guy you don't understand how competitive he is. And here we are, year one, coming off a Big Ten tournament championship and a Sweet 16 berth, and it wasn't good enough for him. You could tell he was disappointed. And he said, I thought we could have gotten to another weekend. And they were close. They were really like 9-10 minutes away, Clay. So now they got a better team, in my opinion, assuming they all come together like they think they're going to. And they got a great coaching staff. We're looking at them right now on this picture on our video podcast. And these guys are all first class. Dusty May knew what he wanted. He went out and got them. They all share the same vision. This thing is there is literally no coach in the country that I would trade Dusty May for when it comes to being the coach at Michigan.
If they could have pulled out that Auburn game and set up a rematch or, the third game with Michigan State in Atlanta, it would have been pretty epic. And, Michigan didn't fare well against them in the 2 games. They did figure some things out maybe in the second half. I know they were playing with a big deficit. Michigan State might have gotten comfortable in that second meeting, but you never know. And like you said, he mentioned that he didn't feel like they maxed out last year. I think they probably got pretty close to it, but not quite what they were looking for, and pretty motivated, and a bunch of new pieces a bunch of returning guys, but some new pieces to help them get over that hump. Merez Johnson, congrats to the Team USA for winning the FIBA U19 World Cup over in Switzerland. He averaged 9.4 points, 6.4 rebounds, 1.7 blocks in 18.5 minutes per game. It was a blowout city. Pretty much every game for the U.S. They went 7-0, and he didn't have to play too many minutes, but someone sent me this. A friend sent me this earlier and I think it was from Hoops, so credit to them. He had 24 made baskets in the FIBA U19 World Cup. 23 of them were dunks, layups, or tip-ins. So, he's going to live at the rim. I know he's going to expand his game. He's working on his post moves. He's working on being a guy who can handle it up top as a dribble handoff guy. But we learned about this reading Good to Great in the business class back in college. There's the hedgehog versus the fox. The hedgehog does one thing really well, and the fox does a lot of things, and maybe doesn't master one. At the very least, I know he's going to expand his game. He's only a sophomore. At the very least, he does a few things like effort, putbacks, getting on the glass really, really well. He's going to add, but I'm fine if he's that guy that we saw in the U19 World Cup, this year at Michigan, considering he's got a lot around him.
And defense, that's the thing. When I asked Dusty Manor sit down a couple months ago, he said, "Oh, plug and play, man." He says, "I can't. How fortunate we are." And credit to Akeem Miskadeen for setting up the meeting in Chicago. And he told Dusty, he said, "Hey, I'm going to see I'm going to go see them. I'm going to go see the family, the Johnson family." And Dusty's like, "All right, great." And sure enough, boom, you get the foot in the door. And Dusty's a great closer too. And it helps to have the money, but you know what? He went out and earned that too. He went out and met the boosters. Dusty May did. And really got that till a little bit higher to where it needed to be. And here we are. They're still not in the top. Everybody's like, "Oh, Michigan's got one of the top in the Big Ten." I think they're probably about 4th or 5th, I think is what he said. In fact, he said, he told people closer to us, middle of the pack at one point. I think Michigan's moved up a little bit. But this is not just about money. This is about people wanting to play for Michigan and play for Dusty May. And the style of play is fun. Clay getting up and down the court. I think you're going to see more of that even this year, and they're going to push the ball a little bit more. And I think they're going to be better defensively. I think this is a legit Final Four squad if they come together. Like I said, like I think they will under Dusty May.
Well, Lenardi's got him on the 2 line, so it's
Hey, yep.
Oh no, projections. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And the schedule is, I mean, it's kind of a dream schedule in terms of fun matchups, but
Mhm.
you want to get as many wins as possible. But you have Duke on there, you have Villanova on there, you have San Diego State and Auburn in Las Vegas on Thanksgiving week, leading into Michigan's fifth straight win, or shot at a fifth straight win in football over Ohio State. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get to questions. Before we do, just wanted to mention Oscar Goodman as well. As you mentioned, the ankle injury, should be fine, walked off on his own, but he averaged 6.4 points, 5.1 rebounds, 2.3 assists in 19.1 minutes per game for New Zealand. They finished fourth in the tournament. They were in the bronze medal game yesterday when he got hurt early on. They only lost by 4, and he was a key piece. If he wouldn't have gotten hurt, they may have earned the bronze medal. So he did some good things, and he may not find too many minutes this year, but I think he has got some potential.
He does.
And
Yeah,
go ahead.
he's going to be playing a lot starting next year. People think because he was on the team last year, he was a redshirt last year.
Yeah.
He's still a freshman, really pretty much a true freshman. Just happened to get here a little bit early. So excited to see what he can do. And again, all these guys, they aren't looking to, okay, play me now or I'm going to leave type of thing. It just isn't that type of a culture. LJ Kaysen said the same thing last year. I think he's going to have a much bigger role this year. I think he's going to be a star here. Probably next year. So I love every bit of this, man. It's like a dream. I covered the John Beeline years, and I thought it couldn't get any better or couldn't get that good. I think it can be that good. I don't know that anything will ever get better than covering a John Beeline team. That was a dream. And Jim Harbaugh, covering Jim Harbaugh was unbelievable too. So how blessed we are to be able to cover these guys. And I'm telling you, buddy, I got a feeling about this squad.
Yeah, there's nothing like the climb when you go
Yes.
from how many years they didn't make the tournament before John Beeline got there. He gets there in year 2, and all the different things you check off. The rivalry games, and then then you host college game day, and then you get in the tournament again after a bump in the road, and then you make the second weekend, and you make that magical run to the Final Four in 2013, and then same thing on the football side under Jim Harbaugh. Just the continual progress. You'll never get that again in this period of time. You hope you never have to revive it the way that both of those two guys did. But when John Beeline left, and I said it after Jim Harbaugh's departure as well, you were never, whoever you hired, it's a weird reality. No matter who you hire, they're not going to be as good as John Beeline. They're not going to be as good as Jim Harbaugh, especially when it comes to fit at Michigan. But right now, in a different era, 5 years after Juwan Howard took over, as you said earlier, there's no one you'd rather have in charge. So in that respect, they kind of were able to do it after 5 years, and they still had a couple good seasons under Juwan. So the program looks good at this point. We did have a question on Goodman's status. We already addressed that. So we'll move on to our second question. Wolverine Steve, who says, who will be the leader in sacks and who will be the leader in interceptions this season? Go Blue.
Man, it's a great question, and it was funny because you and I were so far apart when I was talking to people for the football preview and some of the coaches. They said Jayshon Barham is the guy that we are really going to lean on. Last year it was the defensive line, and when you have guys like Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, then obviously that's going to be your focus. And Derek Moore, Josiah Stewart, for crying out loud, right? But they think that Jayshon Barham can be their leading sack guy, and they are going to use him in different ways to make sure that he gets his opportunities. They say his closing speed. You look at his body; he's absolutely sick, right? And how many times did he get close last year? Almost to the point where you're like, okay, pull up, Jayshon, don't hit this guy. Don't be a little overzealous. But I had somebody in the building tell me, hey, don't be stunned if this guy gets us 10 sacks this year. And I'm like, come on, that's, what, you're embellishing here a little bit. And they said, well, this is how we're going to use him. He's not going to be a full-time defensive end. And I remember all the questions in the spring. Is he really moving? Is he really moving? And that was never the intention. The intention was to move him around, to put him in position to create those matchups, those one-on-ones, whether it's as a blitzing linebacker up the middle, whether it's off the edge against somebody that's overmatched, to get him in that position. So I think Derek Moore is probably got a great shot to lead the team in sacks. He was one of the guys that really was responsible for a lot of the sacks last year, even though he didn't get the numbers. Starting right out of the gate, we've said this before, Josiah Stewart's first sack of the year was a result, I think, of Derek Moore getting into the backfield and collapsing that pocket. So I think Derek Moore will have a lot. I think Jayshon Barham will be up there. Those are the two guys. And don't sleep on TJ Guy, man. I think TJ Guy is extremely underrated.
Yeah, and TJ Guy had more sacks last year than Derek Moore did on fewer snaps. And he's always flashed. Like, I think was it the Washington game in 2021, or and he might have still retained his red shirt. He came in at the end, or I think the Maryland game that year, and he comes in and like one of his first snaps, he gets a sack. He's always kind of been a playmaker, a guy who can give you a spark, and it's going to be different having to set up moves and tackles getting comfortable with you, but you also being able to set up your own moves as a full-time guy there. But he started a couple games last year when Josiah was hurt, and then the other one when Derek Moore was hurt. So he'll have an opportunity. I'm going to go with Derek Moore. I know he only had 4 last year, but he had 5 the season before as a backup. It's not like he's incapable of getting to the quarterback. He had the same amount of pressures last year as Josiah Stewart did, on just a little bit more playing time because Josiah missed a little bit more time with injury. So in the bowl game as well that he opted out of. So he's got the potential to do it. Ernest Hausman sneaky had a few last year. Jay Sean Barham just won. He had 7 in his 2 years at Maryland, though, so he's definitely got a shot. I wonder a little bit how good Barham seems to run into blockers a lot and kind of get caught up. It feels like more than maybe he should. I mean, he's terrifying to have to go against as a blocker, but I wonder if he could get past 5 this season.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Like I said, I know the plan. They're saying, hey, this isn't just me pulling it out of my butt, right? They think he's got that ability. There were a couple times. Go back and watch that Ohio State game too. On that last drive, I think there were 2 or 3 times on the last 4 snaps, at least 2, where he was in there, made him throw the ball away, got there or just got there a half second late. That whole Ohio State game. So. I got a good feeling about him again if he plays within himself and doesn't. If there's no hitting after the whistle, because he's an aggressive young man, I think that's a good way to put it, right? He plays with that mean streak, and but he's got to keep his head about him. But regardless, I think they're going to get to the quarterback this year. I think the interior linemen are going to do a pretty decent job there too. They're not going to be Mason Graham. Mason Graham again was one of the best that we've ever seen at that, using his hands, absolutely ridiculous. And there is no maybe Rayshon Benny. I'll tell you what, Rayshon's been kind of underrated in that role too. If you go back even a couple of years ago to that Ohio State game, when he was getting into the backfield on some big plays. So, but I love this front 7. And as Sharon Moore told people close to us not long ago, he said, if there's a better defensive line in the country and when it comes to depth and starters, he said, I'd like to know who it is. So that's pretty exciting considering what they had last year.
Yeah, no doubt. I think Benny could be one of those guys. Hard to lead the team in sacks at that position, but can help those other guys out and get a few of his own. Interceptions is tough. I would say Rod Moore, if I was very confident that he's going to play the entire way. I'm not exactly sure. He led the team in interceptions a couple of years ago. Was able to keep that pair of turnover buffs that. And I wonder who's fun. I mean, Will Johnson's got enough money now to fund him every year, right? So,
right.
I hope he does. I guess I'm going to go. If I had to pick one guy, I would go with Jair Hill. I just think he has maybe a little more of that juice in terms of playmaking. We saw it with some like really big plays. The Minnesota game, he had a nice pick, and he's got that athletic upside. I think a little bit more than some of those other DBs. And I'd be hard pressed to pick a safety other than Rod Moore. But what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think if Rod Moore's healthy from the get-go, I would go with him. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think Jair Hill, and I think a lot of teams are going. I think he's going to get a lot more opportunities too. I think a lot of people are going to test him, right? How many stop-and-go moves or double moves has he gotten beaten on? And he's gotten better, right? But people are going to test him, and he's got the athletic ability to adjust and to really make plays, and we've seen that. So hopefully they get the best out of him. That kid has all the talent in the world. So if he can put it together, he has a chance to be a really, really good corner here.
I agree. Zeke Berry has a shot. He had a huge momentum-changing pick at the beginning of the third quarter against Indiana. I feel like his picks are more going to come like that if he gets a break on the ball, as opposed to Jair Hill being able to maybe go up and get it. TJ Metcalf had 3 or 4 at Arkansas last year, so maybe he's a sleeper pick. But yeah, it's Rod Moore if he's healthy. The ball hawk ability is awesome. Trogdor, thank you, Wolverine Steve, for that question. Trogdor wonders, why can't you make football start early?
Because we don't wish our summers away when we get to be our age. Any age. I got to tell you, summertime in Michigan, they wrote a song about it. Kid Rock. So all summer long, it's unbelievable, and it's unbelievable how fast it goes. I don't wish him away anymore, especially when you're putting together the football preview for a good month and a half, where you're writing nonstop, and then you get a little bit of downtime. Then we get to go to Vegas. If we make it back from there alive, then we still have August, right? We'll still be doing a lot of writing, but there's still time in August to really appreciate the great weather and the great things to do in Michigan. So, man, I love college football. But here's the thing, Clay. It's not just football this year. It's football, basketball that I am like, holy crap, when those two overlap. And
Best time of the year.
Oh, it is. It is. And especially when your teams are really, really good. Michigan football, Michigan basketball has a chance to be like the early 1990s again, late 1980s, when both teams were at the top, winning championships and competing for Big Tens. You know, the Fab Five, and that was right at the end of the 5-year championship run for football. So it's going to be really good. So, but hey, slow it down, man. Life is short. Appreciate every day. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. And that's why you need to start using more sunscreen. Yeah.
Now, what does wishing your summer away actually look like? Because you can't actually alter how time works.
No, that's a fair question, right? Like sitting in bed and just curled up in the fetal position,
But
watching.
you never did that,
No,
right?
watching replays of old games. I do remember my first year in Michigan after coming home, and I had videotapes. That was how old I am. Videotapes of the games, the national championship games. I watch them every single day, just reliving it and how special it was. So, but there are so many highlights in all these last 3-4 years. All these Ohio State games. It was funny. We were up on the lake, and we had a sad Buckeye up there who couldn't. He was trying. You guys cheated. I'm like, wait a minute. How's that explain the last 3 years when they said they knew that Michigan, or the signs didn't matter? You cheated. That's all there is to it. You cheated. I'm like, just go lie down. They were so sad that their national championship to a lot of them, Clay, was tainted because they didn't beat Michigan. That's just the way it is. And they understand it and they know it. Something is empty about it. So congratulations to them on winning the Natty. At the same time, we all know if one deserves an asterisk, it's probably not Michigan.
I agree. And those tears that Jack Sawyer was shedding were real tears. You can't take those away.
No.
They were hurt. They were broken by losing that game for sure. We were watching the fireworks from a boat on Saturday night, the 5th, and we were blaring the victors out there and like as loud as possible. There were people blasting music, but not as loud as this. And then you see the pontoon boat next to us was a bunch of Michigan State fans, and I was like, man, could you imagine having to sit through that? It was the long version of the victors too.
Oh wow.
Which is the best version. So yeah, like you can enjoy both. Is my point. You can enjoy the summer, but also be like, all right, let's get the victors on. Let's watch some. When it gets the daylight's over, you watch the Rose Bowl again. He says it feels like you're making it take forever just to hurt my feelings. Is this true? All right, again, we have no bearing there. He said, fortunately, my feelings heal twice as fast as a normal person. Good for him.
Nice.
And we have our Torch Lake question that we'll save for the end.
Oh shit.
Mgo Lax has a really long and fantastic question.
Great poster.
He is a great writer as well. I believe he wrote for the Michigan Daily back in the day. He says, on the football recruiting front, because it seems different with basketball, obviously we hope every recruit succeeds and sticks with the program, but I'm curious if you guys have in your head an acceptable amount of loss in any given class and how acceptability impacts the classes that are being built. Do you think more chances on guys who have a super high ceiling athletically but might leave early if they feel like they're not going to be able to get on the field to achieve it, when you can replace them with guys from the portal who have shown their ability elsewhere? It wasn't that long ago when you would have been hoping that 75 to 80% of your incoming recruits would still be there at senior day. But what about now? And we will find that teams with homegrown seniors do better than teams with imported experienced players, etc. Does that change the math on how many guys you want/need to stick? Also, will we get to a point where the deals being offered to players are for at least 2 years, or maybe are backloaded and have clawbacks in order to reduce turnover, so that we give kids an incentive to at least plan to spend at least half their college career at one school? Awesome questions. It's tough to say, especially that last one, the 2-year deals, because I feel like someone would just sue and get out of that.
Right.
But The good thing is, it actually, not to tie everything back to Dusty May, but one of the things he said after he took the Michigan job over Louisville, Vanderbilt, some of these others, was that one of the main factors he looked at when assessing what he wanted to do next was go to an institution where players would want to stay if basketball was taken away. What's a great institution, a great college town, a great brand, somewhere that's going to give you connections that they're going to open doors for you down the road. And Michigan's that. You've seen Michigan keep a lot more players, especially the ones it wants to keep, than maybe some other programs. So the academic side of things, the networking side, the facilities, the great culture, I think plays into their favor there. But there is some sort of healthy churn rate too. I don't think you want everyone to stay as much as individually you might. You do need some guys to leave so you can kind of, especially with the 105 now, bring in portal guys, bring in big freshman classes that if you hit on a few guys could really pay off.
Yeah, that's why I think a lot of us were saying that the 2023 Michigan team was the last great true champion where these guys all came in together, they stuck it out, and they took a lot less money than they could have gotten elsewhere. JJ McCarthy, Blake Corum, think about the money that they could have commanded elsewhere. Mason Graham, all these guys, Kenneth Grant, the following year. It's unbelievable what they did and what they sacrificed. And I will say that is really probably the most special team. And God bless 1997 and all these other great teams, but that is the team really of all time, in my opinion, the Michigan team, because of what they accomplished and the way they did it. So it's going to be different, right? I do believe there will be contracts someday. I do believe there could be collective bargaining. But I'll say this, Clay, the genie's out of the bottle, and all these people saying, well, the NCAA is going to regulate any deal over $600 and so on and so forth. And I don't think that's going to work. I really don't. I think that, like you said, there will be lawsuits where, okay, why am I not allowed to make money? And that's just the way it is. So people are used to it now, right? I think it was Bryce Underwood's dad who said $15 million was what he was expected to make by his end of his career at Michigan. It'll probably be more than that with other NIL deals. So there is going to be significant churn. At the same time, if you've got the culture, then you can, as Michigan always has and did under Jim Harbaugh, if you've got that culture, then you're going to keep the guys you want, right? That's just, I believe that. And at the same time, you're going to have those tough conversations with guys that, maybe aren't going to play here and say, hey, maybe it's in your best interest to move on. So it sucks. That's the reality of it. It's more like a pro sport now than ever. Those are great questions. I'm going to have some questions like that for Jared Wangler coming up from Champion Circle and get his opinions on those too. So, but really appreciate the thoughts.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's important right now. I think every coach is thinking of a lot of those things. So good stuff from MGO Lax. We move on to Maisie Blue, Texas, TX. Who has a more successful 2025 season, Michigan football or basketball? And the most important part is, he says, dealer's choice on metrics for success. So we had this debate a couple of weeks ago when we talked about, is it more likely that Michigan football makes the 12-team college football playoff or Michigan basketball makes the Final Four? Those aren't the only two metrics of success. Here's what I think. I think that, and I picked football for that question, but I think basketball is going to have, I think basketball is going to have a little bit more success. And it's actually flipped in terms of how the two sports are, where before a lot of people looked at the basketball regular season as somewhat meaningless and the only things you could achieve. And those of us who follow it closely know that it's not, but a lot of people looked at it and really your success is determined on the tournament, which I weigh that the heaviest, but I still think you can have success. Now college football has transitioned a little bit to, look at Ohio State last year, look at Oregon, the way they got screwed with their draw. They had the best regular season of anyone in the Big Ten and end up with a worse draw than Penn State after beating them in the Big Ten championship game. I know they changed the seeding this year, but things have changed in how you have to look at it, where I think Michigan basketball can check off some boxes. They got three big goals: regular season, Big Ten tournament, NCAA tournament, and there are levels to all those. So long way of saying I think basketball, because there are actually some different ways you can achieve that regular season, conference tournament wise.
Yeah, I think that Michigan basketball wins the championship. I think they have a great chance to win the Big Ten championship. I think football's a year away. If they get to 9-3, Clay, and they have a chance to make the playoff, maybe with a win over Ohio State, then they're going to be right there. But I think that's still, I think they're a year away from really competing for titles. Whereas I think that basketball has a chance to win titles this year. So, and that's kind of the standard, right? You can have a great year. For example, Brady Hoke's first year when they went 11-2 and they won the Sugar Bowl, and that's still a great year. But you didn't win a title. You didn't beat Michigan State. I think that I think football can have a really good year, a really good building year. But I do think that basketball has a much higher ceiling and a championship ceiling. And I think that I really think that they've got a great shot at the Final Four, but I really believe they will win one of the two championships when it comes to the Big Ten, at least.
Yeah, I agree with that. Last couple ones here. Garbo824 says in the market for a new putter. Any suggestions? Not really. I don't have a putter that I even know how to say what it is. I don't even know what it's called, but just don't get one of those goofy, the long ones. I don't think amateurs should really use those.
No, and you
Looks
know what?
dumb.
Unfortunately, I don't golf enough to be good enough to have a good putter. So I just hit whatever's in the bag. I have a putter that's probably 40 years old. So, and I still use it at times. So I would say it's not the putter, it's the golfer. So go up there and go to Dick's or whatever and throw out those balls on the fake grass and putt and whatever one. I would say four different putters, man. Go up there with 10 balls for each putter, whichever one you make the most of. That's your answer.
Yeah, and I agree. And also looking down at a putter actually does whatever looks the best to you, feels comfortable. I think actually does probably play a factor. The pros talk about that. I know Scheffler switched to a putter a few months ago, and it's kind of worked. And he said it looks good. They're obviously so good either way. But
yeah,
so do that, and then but on a somewhat serious note as well, once you get a new putter, you get new equipment, there's less things to blame for you sucking. And I'm speaking from experience here. So it's kind of I don't know. It's tough. You want a couple excuses in the back pocket
absolutely.
In the Rolodex there. All right, the last one, Jay Schultz says, for Chris Ballas, we all know your love of Torch Lake. Let's say there is some awful cataclysm tomorrow and Torch Lake dries up. At which lake would you spend your future 4th of July vacations? Lake Charlevoix, maybe Glen Lake, perhaps West Bay, maybe at Leland on Lake Michigan. These are the important questions Michiganders need answers to. I'll just, before you take it over, once again, Northern Michigan is a terrible place. If you haven't been, don't even try. It's not worth your time. Go somewhere else. Go to Cape Cod.
You know what I was impressed with? Walloon Lake, and John Beeline's got a place up there. And I was puttering around out there and thought, wow, the water here is so clear too. Everybody thinks that Torch Lake has the only clear water. The difference between Torch Lake and these other lakes is it's crystal clear. It's blue-green. It's unbelievable. It really does look like the Caribbean, right, when you get up there. But Walloon Lake is crystal clear as well. Gorgeous lake. So, and then that's probably where I would go. Swing in and have a wobbly pop there with John Beeline and talk a little hoops. So
barrel back.
At the barrel back, and then swing over to invite myself over to his place. I think it's a gated community. So, and I do believe, if I remember correctly, that he's got a white house with maybe green shutters. So, which we're going to have to talk to him about. That's awfully disappointing. But anyway, great lake and Lake Charlevoix. I got to tell you what, Glen Lake's got a sandbar too. That when you go towards Traverse City and you go over the bridge and you can see it and the clear lake as well. I'm going to give that one a shot too. Great question.
Yeah. Walloon Lake is so big and long that you didn't give away. There were probably a multiple. So
right. I hope so, John. I'm sorry, Coach, but he's going to have a bunch of boats, out looking for his place. So anyway, but a beautiful place.
Yeah. I'd say Lake Charlevoix may be my favorite lake. I haven't been on to Torch. I've been nearby. So that could change. That is beautiful color as well. Glen Lake might be the bluest I've ever seen.
Gorgeous.
Anywhere on Lake Michigan is good. There are so many different options. In all seriousness, I know we say stay away because we don't want it to get too crowded. We don't want Chris to have to take 4 hours to get home on the 6th of July or whenever you came back. But there are a lot of good options. Traverse City, all these different places. Torch Lake, though, do we have what's the craziest thing you saw there? because like videos go viral from there of people doing crazy stuff.
The cops have really cracked down, thankfully, lately. So I can say thankfully or unfortunately, right? When maybe
Right.
10 years ago, unfortunately, but now it's thankfully as you get a little bit older. But the chicken fights were fantastic. And Austin's cousin, she was on top of, she was on somebody's shoulders and just beat the hell out of this girl. So that was lovely. And it never ends. It's a party up there, and it's getting younger. It's getting younger and younger up there. But I'll tell you what, there is nowhere you would rather be on the 4th of July, in my opinion. It's just a lot of fun.
And Austin Fox, our former coworker here at the
Yep.
Wolverine. Did he make it? How did he fare?
Austin did great. I think he actually put down 2 beers, which might be a record for the last 3 years, and we had a great time. So it was great to see him, and miss him at the Wolverine, but he's doing great, and it was great to have him up there. We're going to get the Wolverine staff up there here, either not by the end of this summer, then next summer for sure.
So only 2 Busch Lights for this guy.
It might have been 3. So he had to drive home. He has changed, I tell you. And you know what? And that's fine. Good for him.
Absolutely. Well, hope everybody enjoyed the 4th surrounding weekend. 54 days till football, 16 until we depart for Big Ten Media Days. I think, 15 till it actually starts. 3-day event this year in Las Vegas. We'll have you covered there. We will have you covered during Michigan's fall camp that starts at the end of the month and through the entire season and beyond. But you can use the promo code UM1 right now at thewolverine.com. That will get you premium access to our message board, The Fort, to all of our articles at the Wolverine through, as of today, July 7th, the Oklahoma game. That will get you 2 months for $1, 50 cents a month. No better deal in America. Happy birthday to America. And we will see everyone next time.